what is the main storyline for you when it comes to Genji and T1? Because, as we said, that's a matchup that we know a lot and we've been used to seeing a lot over the past few years.
Yeah, I feel like it's just, it's the same matchup between them, but a very different sentiment going in. We saw in spring, it was Genji knocked down to the lower bracket who had to fight their way back up. It was T1 who looked so dominant in spring, and everyone expected them to come out ahead, whereas here, T1 came into playoffs as the underdogs and have had to prove themselves and ramp up time after time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, no one would expect it before the playoffs started. Like, T1 is making final. That's crazy. I mean, it's like, it really was unexpectable, and T1 actually made that happen.
It is actually crazy to follow up on what you were just saying, that T1 was the underdog coming in this playoff, given the experience on the side of this roster and how successful they've been over the years. Would you rate them as the underdog coming in today, is the question.
I think I still would, because I think KT didn't look as good as we've seen them in the regular season. T1 have definitely stepped up though. That's why it's so hard to read. I think based on what we know from them so far, I give the edge to Genji, but T1 have shown constantly improving their performance. Their first series against D+, people were ready to rule them out after that one. They weren't that impressed with the victory, but every series they've played, they've looked better and better.
And I really want to focus on this jungle matchup, especially Peanut versus Owner. And for me, you have two different trajectories. Peanut, who was for long fighting for the consistency that people were looking for this player. And on the other side of the table, Owner, who had to fight back in summer, heavily criticized, as we've been talking about yesterday. But I feel like he was the player of the game yesterday and the MVP for T1. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup today.
Do you guys remember, we used to make a joke of the Peanut, actually, game 2 Peanut, game 3 Peanut, Peanut haven't arrived in Lord Park yet. Those kind of thing was, actually miming in this spring split. And I think after this, especially after MSI, he proved himself that the consistency and the experience and the veteran player, he's leading the team right now. He's making all the action, all of it from Genji, and it's crazy that he actually find a form that is actually even better and get the consistency level.
And I feel like Owner's kind of been the opposite. When T1 was struggling, I've said multiple times I felt like he was the worst performing player, and I feel like part of that is because jungle is tied so heavily to mid, which is where they had the absence in Faker. But yesterday against KT, he stepped up so massively, and we saw a real return to form that is going to be so needed to match up to Peanut today.
I want to say in Game 5, some steals here and there when it came to objective, but it was a crazy game all across the board. And when I look at this mid lane matchup, it's a tale as old as time. Chovy versus Faker, we've been used to seeing this matchup, but who should have the edge today, especially when you consider Faker's current form after the best of 5 he played against KT yesterday?
Yeah, guys, how crazy is this? This is the 6th time it's in final. It's not like just entire, it's just only final, this is 6th time, and Chovy is being performing incredibly well, even lane stat, moving around, the player making, impacting on the map. It's crazy, and this type of the clutch moment, he's playing with Yone especially, I think it's incredibly pressure for T1.
I think everyone always knew that Chovy was a phenomenal laner, but his growth in this past couple of years to be so impactful on the map as well has just really rounded him out as one of the greatest mid laners of all time. And for Faker, I think people were looking at this matchup as thinking, Faker adds so much to his team, but Chovy is so good individually. But after yesterday, Faker showed a level of laning that completely eclipsed BDD, and he's in such good form right now.
An amazing Azir, honestly, on the side of Faker. And what about the bot lane? Something that we've been always talking about this year, Paze replacing Ruler at the beginning of the year. We knew that there were some heavy expectations on the side of his rookie, but I feel like he's been smashing the expectations that everyone had and upping it even higher here.
Yeah, I mean, to Pace, we can't call him his rookie anymore.
No.
He's an absolutely reloader plus, and he's become a veteran player. And also, he also proved himself that he is really strong at the final. He's actually, when the tournament is big, he doesn't really make any mistake. It's last time they played against the T1 at the final, he was completely carried the game. He got MVP. There's nothing to talk anymore about him.
I feel like he's been so reliable, but I also think Umayushi, for the side of T1, even when they were struggling, he looked like that member who was still holding such a high level, such a solid form. There are so many games they managed to win because he was putting on that 1v9 performance, and yesterday he was really the driving force in some of the matches. The fact we saw Carrier moving to Lulu, playing that Enchanter, having faith that Guma could carry, and he certainly did.
And I feel like that's what is interesting because when we set up the bot lane discussion points yesterday, we've been talking about the Xayah. We also saw Zeri coming back as one of the strongest picks we have in the meta right now. And when it comes to these players, I feel like it's going to be the most contested champions today. And who is the best at maneuvering them?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole time we were talking about the Xayah. It's kind of funny that he actually got the Game 5 Xayah and he clutched the game. And all the game, as you mentioned, the Lulu, Enchanter, and the Guma Yushi was actually popping off. He was like, nope, I'm not losing today.
네, 젠지의 스코어 감독과 T1의 톰 감독 등을 모시고 인터뷰 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
네, 결승 무대에서 T1과 4번 연속으로 만나게 됐는데요. 이에 대한 생각은 어떠신가요?
이제 T1도 그렇고 저희도 그렇고 이렇게 4번 연속 결승전에 왔다는 것 자체가 두 팀 다 너무 잘한다고 생각해서 좀 오늘 쉽지 않은 싸움이 될 것 같고 기분도 좋습니다.
네, T1이 정규 시즌 5위에서 결승까지 올랐습니다. 소감이 어떠신가요?
저희가 정규 시즌 5위로 마감을 했지만 그래도 저희 스스로도 되게 잘하는 팀이라고 생각했어서 정규 시즌에는 큰 의미를 두지 않고 연습을 했던 것 같습니다.
네, 어제 T1과 KT의 최종 결승 진출전이 있었습니다. 어떤 마음으로 지켜보셨나요?
이제 뭐 어느 팀이 올라오든 뭐 쉽지 않을 거라 생각하고 그냥 분석을 열심히 해서 오늘 꼭 이길 마음으로 지켜보고 있었습니다.
네, T1이 어제 경기 후에 오늘 또 경기를 치르게 됐는데요. 선수들의 컨디션은 괜찮은가요?
선수들이 어제 연습하고 좀 오늘 경기 시간에 맞춰서 알맞게 잔 것 같고요. 또 어제 경기를 했다 보니까 이제 조금 긴장도 더 풀리게 된 것 같아서 좋은 것 같습니다.
네, 혹시 감독님들이 생각하는 오늘의 핵심 라인은 어디인지 한 분씩 얘기 부탁드리겠습니다. 먼저 스코어 감독님.
결승전 무대에서 사실 핵심 라인이 있다기보다는 오늘 당장 이제 한 경기 치르면서 그 핵심 라인이 좀 드러날 것 같아서 오늘 경기를 지켜봐야 될 것 같습니다.
네.
저도 핵심 라인이라기보다는 저희 선수들이 자기 할 것만 다 잘하고 좀 조급해하지 않는 플레이 잘하면 충분히 이길 수 있을 것 같습니다.
네, 마지막으로 젠지의 3연속 우승을 향한 각오 들어보겠습니다.
저희가 이제 2번 연속으로 이제 LCK를 우승했는데 이번에도 그 기세에 꺾이지 않고 오늘 3연속 우승 3대 0으로 하겠습니다.
네, T1의 11번째 우승을 향한 각오도 들어보겠습니다.
저희가 오늘 그 기세에 꺾어보도록 하겠습니다.
네, 양팀 모두 최선을 다해 멋진 경기를 보여주길 응원하겠습니다. 네, 인터뷰 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.